Okay. Well, I'd like to welcome all the students and the faculty and those who are looking at this from a distance to our next in the series of sabbatical conversations. And tonight it's my distinct pleasure to introduce to you my colleague, Dr. Jin Feng. He had his sabbatical, a full year sabbatical that he took academic year 16-17, so he was gone from September until this past September. And during that time, he traveled extensively, and I'm sure we're going to hear about this. He wrote, he drew, he played music, he ate. I traveled to meet him in China, and the image you're seeing over my shoulder is a place that we visited in August. Jin is the director of the Masters of Interior Design, and along with that, he has, his credentials are, he got his Bachelor's of Architecture degree from Tsinghua University in Beijing, a Master's of Architecture from the University of California, Berkeley, and then his PhD from the University of Michigan, just down the street in 1993. This is going to be an indication as to what the breadth and depth of what you're going to hear tonight from Jin. His publications range from basic CAD for interior designers to catching the poetic essence of interiors in daydreaming. So, and this is what I've learned. It's so endearing about my colleague Jin Feng is that he can have a conversation about almost anything, and we really appreciate that as faculty, and I know our students in the audience who are nodding their head agree with me. I'm going to keep this short so that Jin Feng can take care of the rest of the time and have you captivated. So please welcome Dr. Jin Feng.
Thank you. So this picture is a 3D model of the village we visited. You know, tonight I would like to share my experience in this place for 2 times. One is last year, one is this year. And then this year, as Steve said, I went with him. So we had many meals, you know, in this house, actually, and then we also had a wonderful evening, you know, when we had full moon, and then Steve was trying to do some nighttime photography, and then so this is a wonderful village, and then also I will tell you the story. So now let me start my formal presentation. The title is, I call it The Beautiful Countryside. And then so this is the announcement, whatever. Okay, so this is my sabbatical talk. And so this, I select this picture to show my understanding of what a sabbatical should be. So this is an ancient Chinese painting, and usually, you know, these, you know, kind of guys, you know, usually serve in the imperial court, but you know, serving in the imperial court would be a very toxic job. So, you know, after some time, you know, they are exhausted, and then probably felt the danger of being killed, probably there, and then so they have to escape from, you know, the city, and then you know, hide into the mountains, and then to enjoy nature, and then to purify the soul, and then regenerate, and then you know, recharge, and then probably they will go back to the imperial court. And so I don't mean that, you know, LTU is a very toxic place, and then but we do, you know, repeat our work, and then so sometimes we'll get numb. So it's really nice to have this opportunity. I thank the administration to give me this opportunity. And then so the idea is to go to a far, far away place, and then so this is China, and then so this is a far, far away place in China. And then also in this is Guizhou province, and then we finally got to the far away place in that province. And then the picture shows the village. We actually went in and worked on. And then so this thing actually started in May. So there's a conference or a forum. It's the discussion is about the return to landscape, sentiment and memory in the urban and the rural evolution. So the concern here is that we are losing all this traditional landscape in both urban areas and then rural areas, and then so we lost the holders of our memory, and then we got emotional. So this is rather a romantic nostalgia type of feeling, and then so based on that the architects started to get into school, and then people talk about that. And then after that conference, I went to Spain, to present a paper about my lighting class. That's totally not relevant. And I got a call from those people, who organized the conference and saying, we have a workshop. We want you to come. And then so I have to cancel my flight back to the U.S. and then join the group in the place called Anlong. So this workshop is a 10-day workshop organized by an organization called AAUA, and then also they give the annual design competition for all the design schools, in China. Also they call it Asian, but I don't believe any other country actually is part of it. And so here I went, and to represent not only myself but also LTU. But they searched online to try to find an image of LTU. And then and they found Lawrence University, that's in Wisconsin. And so but they already printed out, so I'll just tell myself let it be. Right. And then so this is 1 year later. We have the second international summer workshop. And then so this again is a 10-day workshop in the same place. And then the difference between the two is that the first one is the initial investigation of the situation there, and then we'll respond to this this perception, and then do some initial exploration of how what we can do with the villages. And then the second year, this is continuous work with the local government. So this time, the AAUA want to get some support from corporations, and then to build a design education center around the village, and then for more of these kind of workshop. And then this time I have Steve coming with me, and on our left we have Harvard, on our right we have Pratt, and so we're pretty proud of ourselves. That's we stand in between of those good design schools. And then, of course, there are more other schools. That's all the best schools, in China. They send faculty and students. And then, this year, these 2 years, we haven't, got an opportunity to get a student to join. And then Steve, I think, is working on that. So next year, if they do it again, probably they will do it again. And then probably we should be able to send at least one student. And so if anybody is interested, talk to Steve. Okay, so this so-called beautiful countryside is not a simple description about the village. So it actually is a government directive. So in 2005, in the 5th Central Committee meeting of the 16th Communist Party Congress, the construction of a new socialist countryside was recognized as a significant historical mandate. In 2007, in the 17th Communist Party Congress, the Integrated Urban and Rural Development Strategy was proposed to promote the construction of the new socialist countryside. In 2008, a county in Zhejiang province called Anji made a plan. So this is what the picture shows. Of a plan of a beautiful countryside and published an action outline of building the Chinese beautiful countryside, setting a goal to make Anji the most beautiful countryside in China in 10 years. During the 12th five-year plan, so in China there are all these government plans, 5-year is a cycle. And so that is from 2011 to 2015. The concept of beautiful countryside was adopted by Zhejiang province and then some other areas in China. So now it's become a buzzword, everywhere in China. And then the government is pouring in enormous funding to support this kind of effort. And then so the funding attracted an enormous number of architects, and then to find, try to find projects, to help with this effort. And so here, as I said, this concern about losing this traditional landscape is highly or deeply rooted in the history and culture of China, because China is has a long history of agriculture. Probably have someone said 5,000 years or even longer. And then so the village landscape has been kind of idealized as a image in everybody's mind. So this painting is actually done by the Qing Dynasty emperor. And so to depict an ideal countryside, so that have the farmland, you have the water buffalo, and then you have the little village, you have the little river, you have over the river, you have a little bridge. So there's an ancient, 1,000-year poem. So just listed these elements. There's a small bridge and a gurgling stream, and then a farmer's house. So this is the image has been there for a long time. And then so now we are facing the situation that we don't see that anymore. Okay, and so this is the local vernacular type of architecture in a traditional form. The material is the stone they got from the mountains, and then the very natural looking tile. And then, so this is the front of the house. And this open, like a living space with an altar for family and kitchen, bedrooms on the side. And sometimes the animal is downstairs in the basement. And so this gentleman is living there. And but you can see is, he's no longer purely local because he has a Nike shirt. So chickens, running in the courtyard. So this is the outside, stone wall, and then the gate. And then across the road, there's another house, sitting there, organically, settled in nature. And but this house, you don't see the sign of life, because probably people in that house already left. So this one is a little bit modernized one for the plastered wall. And then, so this one, probably people are still living in it. But in this whole village, probably only a few families are still living in these houses. You can see, so that is the road, and then a lot of plant already is taking over. So what's happening is related to the cities. So this is the big city, Chongqing. So that is one of the largest one in the southwest China. And then many of the villagers actually went there for work. And then most of the men probably will do construction, because you see the city, the buildings are enormous. And then they can also work in factories. So the one on the upper right is the Foxconn company that actually work to supply parts or components to make iPhones. And then, so this is from the news that many of those workers actually jump off buildings to kill themselves because the work is kind of too stressful. And so you can imagine these people are from those beautiful villages, and then so now it's working in this type of environment. They probably are not used to it. And but this so-called urbanization is a kind of temporary, because so far the Chinese government has really opened the registration for these people to really get residency in the city permanently. So they have a temporary stay permit. And then, so this picture shows, during the Chinese New Year. And then, so these people who work temporarily in the city will all want to go back to the villages. And then, so this crowd is enormous. And and then during the time of the Chinese New Year, usually the big cities like Beijing, the street will be quiet. And so this is the situation. And then so the the villagers, will leave, work in the cities, and then the new year they will come back, and then maybe someday they will return. So they have income, and then when they go back to the village, they brought back the income. And then what they do is usually they build the house. And in this picture, you can see there are traditional structures with the dark colored tiled roof. And then you can also see this boxy looking modern structure. So that is the new house. So this modernization of housing automatically started when the people start to go to the city and then get their income. And so this is what we become concerned. So this shows, the new house is building up. So the old house is abandoned. And then so all these architects and then get to say, we are losing these traditional, beautiful, vernacular housing history. And so we can see another angle. The other side, there's a little building, cubicle, and then coming up. But I feel that, they came out pretty happily. And so then, as the trained architects, we want to be judgmental. And then, so we usually want to give it a name, for this. I will automatically call it the modernism for the new housing. And then, but I realized that, it's not really built by architects. So the villagers, they actually learn these building techniques in the city when they work, on the construction of new buildings in the city, and then they bring back, the technology, and then just to build their houses according to what they see in the city, and then what they, they want to have for themselves. And so, but still, I feel this is vernacular. So therefore, so this is, I call it vernacular modern. But we are still concerned about, the losing of the old building. And so this is a different village because we visited so many different villages. And just now I couldn't recall, what is the name of the village. So therefore, if you ask me where this is, I cannot really answer you. But I have a lot of images. So you can see this, the side by side of the traditional and then the new housing. So it's quite, beautifully modern. And then, after, before I went to the village, I was concerned, as most of the other, architects, about the losing of the traditional. But when I look at, this new homes, my view, started to change. I became, to be acceptable, to these vernacular moderns. And then, especially when they are in the construction process, before they put up all these decorations, they are, extremely simple and beautiful. And then, so this is two houses along the highway, so they see the opportunity to open retail shops. So therefore, the lower levels are all open up. Can be opened up and then to run as little shops, and then the upper level will be residential. And then, when I walk by a construction site, they are building this. So this view actually, really caught me. And then, so I took this picture. I thought, okay, this remind me of Louis Kahn or that sort of thing. And then, but this is in process. Probably they will, finish it up, and then, apply some very beautiful colors, and then make it a kind of something that all the architects will hate. And then, so this, I think people like this. So therefore, this image was selected to be flyer, for this lecture. This used to be one of my favorite, image of those villages. And then, so this is a little space, you can see the house is not finished yet, but it's all clean and geometrically pure. And the stone wall is so nice, and then it's a modern feeling of it. And even they have some roof garden to grow corn. And then there's another example of this vernacular modern. And so use this mirror window. And then so you can see the other side, there is another house. And so this picture shows the material the villagers really like. And then, so this is the white-colored glazed ceramic tile. So usually we use it in bathrooms, kitchens, but somehow, they prefer to use it outside the house. And so this is the urbanization, the interaction between the urban and the rural areas. And we have some really beautiful groups of modernized housing in the area. So larger scale village. And then, I began to realize that, probably, so we don't really have to concern about the losing of the old ones. Of course, it would be nice, to have some, preserved. And then, so these new houses, I think, are equally beautiful and then full of life, and then show, the happiness of people. And so even, you have a textured ceramic tile facade. And then, I asked myself, so what? And then, so as long as, the people, is happy in it. So, so there's some interesting, naturally built houses in the modern technology. And then, some of the villagers, they use this very simple but effective technique to cool their house by putting water, on top of it. And then, I try to, I ask, how you do it, because I feel that it could be difficult. It can leak, but they say no. It's just concrete. You will do it. And then I think the trick is that this area, there is no large temperature change. The summertime is not so hot, and then the winter time is not so cold. So never have snow, and then so probably they hardly get under the freezing point. So therefore, the concrete probably can keep intact there. So so this is a natural vernacular sustainable technique. And then I found this probably is my favorite house over there. Has the combination of 2 levels, 1 levels. There's a yard, with flowers, and then so you can imagine people are living in it happily. And then one day we visited a so-called model village. So this is under the directive of countryside beautification from the government. Actually, the county government hired a design firm and then to help with the planning, and then the detail, and then the construction of one village. And they want to set it as an example, and then so they can push it, and then to make all the village, doing the same. And so you can see here, you can recall, the stone walls. And then, but these stone walls, I believe, is not 100% stone. And then, so it's they they actually knocked off all these white ceramic tiles and then put a layer of stone in front. And then they built a roof on top of the flat roof. And then so the government paid the portion of this roof. And because the villagers say, we don't need that roof, we're okay. And then, but the villagers are not really happy, when they knock off their ceramic tiles. They would rather have the ceramic tile than the stone. Because in their mind, this stone building represent or symbolize the past. And then, so that's poverty and then all this hardship of, this countryside living. And you can see clearly here, so that is the concrete roof line, and above it, they are all kind of fake. And although, this is designed by architect, and then so I think that they violate, the very principle of being honest. And then also the color is, you're seeing the same color for the wood. And you can see this is a modern boxy type of house. Is now have a roof on top of it. And then all these buildings are in the same color and the same technique for the balconies. And then so this sign shows that this is done in 2015, and then being a model village. And then they have the same universal or uniform window lattice, to cover all the windows. And a very simple gate, and it now has a little roof on top of it. And so this is like a mill, but it has no actual function. And then you can see it's doing nothing, just turn around. As they see, probably the tourists can pose for a picture. And the lamp has a cover, and then of course this is solar lights. And then this is the place where the villagers usually, used to do their laundry, but they're still doing it. And then, so we appreciate, this architectonic thing. It's, this geometry, its proportion, everything. But when we talk to the villagers, they say, this is really not good to use. It's not as good as what we had before. And so again, this is architectural intervention here, and then kind of messed up, the villager's life. And then, so this sign shows, again, it's 2015. The project is supported by the Finance Bureau of the Anlong County. And it's the beautiful countryside. And then, so this is what the vernacular modern gate to the house would be. And then, so now it's forced a little cap on top of it. And then also the stone wall probably is a really front face to face the road. And you can see the houses that far beyond are a little bit loosely controlled, but the houses next to the road is really controlled. The government, probably has hired, the design firms, to apply these things and then to get it built. So the same color, for the wood structure. And then also this is a perfectly modern house, and has added the little roofs. And so this one, I think probably there are rules, and you have to have a pitched roof on top of building, and then so therefore this try to get approved. So therefore the little stairway up to the rooftop, get covered. And so this the village road, and then here we can see another thing that we'll talk about later. So this is the wooden structure you see on the wall. And then this is a picturesque village, and then but enforced or imposed by the government. And then also the next thing we discovered in the village is the painted wood structure. And so this is a perfectly masonry structure. And then they painted this wood, traditional wood structure on it. And then, but most the traditional houses are only one level. So therefore, they don't know how to deal with it, when the house has two levels. So it stopped, mid-air, over there. I think, it's pretty interesting. I think the government paid the paint, and then so the people, will do it. And then so these houses only has the top level has this wood structure painted on the walls. And but they are, good looking, and then so probably with some time you stay there, probably you can get used to it. And then, so the next one is the Roman columns. And then one observer, commented, said, he said that if you look around the world, the most of the Roman columns are not in Italy. So they are all in the Chinese, countryside. And so you can see, so this, the local people call it the Roman column. And then I think probably it's true. And then it's kind of simplified, and they produce it and sell it. And then see, the government has a push, over this thing. And then, they encourage or pay for the villagers to use it. And then the one villager say, of course, there's a kind of a dark story about it, saying, the village, the village head's relatives is running the shop to produce these columns. So therefore, so this will have a kickback or whatever. But so this is a wonderful house, with this. The local people, they don't hate it. They say this is look good. So you ask them, what do you think about it? They say look good. And of course, this is from the city, and then the city, people are, really the popular style is the so-called European style. And then so the folks that probably work in the city brought this kind of thing to the countryside, and then the government enforce it, and then so this is everywhere. So this is interesting, to have this Chinese style thing, here, but it's the Roman columns, on outside. All these balustrades are in this Roman style. But it's a kind of combined with a little thing. I think this is more Japanese. And so this one, just people probably like this Roman column, and then they let it just standing there, not supporting anything, right? And then so all the architects started to hate this thing, but after some time I realized the people like it, and then these Roman columns when somehow get to the village, they already lost all its original meanings, and then so this is something really, new and then innocent, to the villagers. They use it, and then so this is a big stairway going up to the second level, and then they use this Roman column to support it from below. So we really enjoy, this kind of thing. And then so this is and then I started to call it, this is vernacular postmodernism. And then so this is done, as a combination of efforts, by the government and then by the villagers themselves. And so this is a wonderful detail. And then in one village, we saw this wonderful building. I would call it the masterpiece of this vernacular postmodernism. It has, everything, you want. And then, so you can imagine, this probably would originally be a house with a flat roofs and then very clean. And then it's forced probably, by the government and then paid by the, so to improve it, to beautify it, as, something else. And so this is the guy who built it, and he lived in it. So he's actually in charge of the fish pond, down below, and is very happy about, his house, is proud of it. And so if, we look at, from different angles, and so there's a combination of things that amazes me. And then, the water solar heater, it totally ignored everything, and it just, put it there. And so the pavilion outside, only has the corner, has the ceramic, yellow ceramic tile, as probably recall the Forbidden City, and then but it's cut off, at the center, and then just suggestive, you can imagine, there's a roof, over there, and then so this because this structure was built before the Roman column, so therefore they put the column, the capital apart, and then put it from outside. And then so this is a fragmentation of this Roman column. I think it's pretty wonderful. And then so the other roof uses traditional decorations like the phoenix or the dragon head. And then we have this Chinese lion sitting on top of this little plaster, and then so this Roman style, the pigeon, sitting on the other, and then this kind of a cultural references, got used freely, and so you will have so much fun, just to look at this building, and then so this is a building, a house is being constructed. You can see the second floor part will be built up pretty soon. And then I thought, this must be a store. And because, the open glass doors and windows, and then, I chat with the old gentleman, sitting there. I said, so is this a store? So he said, no. So this is my house. And then, I think the people are totally liberated from the tradition. And then, so they can do whatever they want. And then this Roman column plus, this huge glass doors, probably they sell, in the city, retail stores. And then, they are pretty, proud of it. And then this another Roman column house. And so the next phenomenon I found is this color, the facade. So this must be another government directive to color the front of your house. But probably, the funding is limited, so you are only giving the front to be colored. And as you can see, this yellow one, and as only the front side is colored, the side is not. And but I'm glad that the government didn't dictate a particular color, and then they probably let the people to pick. So therefore, we have all the different colors, and then so we can see really happily applied to the houses. We have a hot pink, but the side is concrete. And then so this is a combination of a Roman column, the fake pitched roof, and all this color. Okay, and but I hope they will preserve the traditional house by the side of it, and then keep it standing. And then so this is a blue one. And then so this one you can see probably Steve is standing by the red colored tent. And then so I appreciate this beautiful balcony on the top. And then the first level is a store, and then the people actually living on the second floor. And then so they have a little girl, probably around 10 or 12, running the store, and then watch for the house, and then entertain us. We had a rest there, and so it's a wonderful family. And then her dad is the village party secretary, and then so actually like a head of the village, in charge of it. But his house is actually freestanding by the road. And so therefore, we are kind of, impressed with all these government effort. But we want to know really what the villagers really want. So therefore, we want to talk to the villager. So these villagers belong to an ethnic group, called Buyi. And then, so they have the traditional dress very much like what I'm wearing now. Sometimes, they have this cloth, it's a kind of around their head. But they are very happy people and satisfied with their life, but feeling the pressure from the growing economy everywhere else. Okay, so then we went into the village and then had an interview with the villagers, and so with the government representative, and then so this young lady actually is from the government, the planning bureau, and help to interpret their local dialect, and then so I can understand what the villager is talking about. So then we found, we asked, what are the top 10 things that you need help from the government? And then so these are the top 10. And so you can see mostly they are about infrastructure. They want, to widen the road, flatten the farmland, and then build a dam, a little bit higher so the water level can go up a little bit. And and then they grow, they planted, cherry trees, but there's no road, to reach it. So therefore, if we need help, you can build a road for us. We can, get to there and then carry the cherry down, or let people, to pick, themselves, to go up there. And so these things are what they need, and obviously, they don't need a facelift of their houses, okay? And then, we think about, about what we observed, and then all these architects participated in the summer camp, got, say, we need to make a kind of suggestion, in the form, we call it the Anlong Consensus, a proposal for rural revitalization and in China. And then, so the first, the thing I think the most important, we say support villager-centered rural revitalization, oppose a designer-centered process. Because, we have, in China, there is a centralized government system, and then the government usually depend on the so-called expert to make their policy and then to apply to the more local level. And then so sometimes, they will get an architect, and then so the architect will apply their preference and then force it onto the villagers. So we just want to point out, so this is no good. And the supported balance, then social and cultural. So we oppose seeking instant profit and all the other things. But I think the first one is the most important thing we want to make. And then so there are all 8 different points. We support something, and then we oppose something. So this is one of the result of this investigation and workshop. And then so this is how we made it. So in many of the after hours, we stayed in the lobby of the hotel. We stayed. And then supported by this Denmark beer. And then finally, we reached this consensus and then worked it out. So I think, so this will be my seat. And then, so we are pretty excited about it. And then, so presented to the government. Okay, so here I want to show you a few of the design project that we did. We divided into groups. So this is my group. You can see there's 6 people there. So one is from Pratt, and then the other from one from Harbin Architecture College, and the other from the Fine Art Academy of Guangzhou. So we actually, based on our investigation and interview with villagers, and then we try to make a plan for improvement of the road and the water system, and then we also try to propose a improvement for the bathrooms. And then we had a simple plan for a homestay type of like Airbnb type of thing for one villager family. And then so this is our group after the final presentation. And so this is the project this year. And then my group is in charge of the overall planning. And then we have some conflict, with the architecture group. And then they don't listen to us, for the selection of the site. So they want to select their own site. Again, so they are architects, and then they have I believe it's a bad attitude toward the villagers. So they feel that, they know better, and then they have a clear line between them and us. And then the argument is that, they don't want to be totally with the villager, so they want to pull out So they found a little hill outside the village. They want to stay, over there. And then, unfortunately, we are the minority. And then actually all these faculty of the workshop voted. And then, our proposal is voted down. So, here, that is the location. So it's outside the village. But, we finished the plan. We know we have to compromise. So this is my group. It's mostly Chinese, and then there's an Italian guy from Milan. And so this is my sketch of the idea. So this is my proposal for the education center. So that is not the structure itself, but what's happening after it's built. So I have somebody working on a laptop computer. And then surrounded by these people are the villagers with this head cloth. And then with kids, running around, chicken, and then the water buffalo, and looking at the display board. And then as the presentation. And so this is the model, they were kind of meal. So they are thinking about, CNC, probably Jim, you should go next year, to bring your portable and then to do something over there. Okay, and then I think now the architect began to realize, the difference between the houses they built. In certain places, and then the government actually allow the architects from Beijing, to have a piece of land so they can build their own houses there. So one of my friends actually, got a chance, so he actually has a piece of land in a village and then build their house. And then, so this is a comparison. And then the one on the left is an architect's house. And then on the right is a villager's house. And so these two black closed ones are the architects. They are kind of amazed, looking at the villager's house. And then to reflect on the difference, between the two. And then, so this is one of the faculty member of the first year workshop, sent this. And then he, on the Chinese social media, we call it WeChat. So this is the comparison between the architect's house and then the villager's house. And then he commented, they have different aesthetics. And so here I want to, this is kind of remind me what Chris Alexander usually say, there's only two types of building. One is bad, one is good. And then the good and bad depends really on whether you feel you're alive in it, or whether, I think what he said is, I think I have the quote at a later time. So here, so when I look at this naturally formed building, I kind of recall what he said about the timeless way of building, and or the quality without a name. So this is a quote from him. So I want to use it to kind of conclude my presentation. A building or a town will only be alive to the extent that it is governed by the timeless way. It is a process which brings order out of nothing but ourselves. It cannot be attained, but it will happen of its own accord if we will only let it. And then, so my conclusion is, let it, and let them do it. So this is my experience of this little village. At the very beginning of my sabbatical, and then the very end of my sabbatical. And then also my opinions about this have changed a lot from the beginning to the end. So now probably I'm in support of a more democratic approach to architecture. And so this is the official ending of it. And then before the questions, I want to really talk a little bit about the other things I've done for my sabbatical. So this should be my main thing. I proposed it to get approval. And then so this is the book of poetry. So this is a 3,000-year-old anthology of Chinese poetry. I'm supposed to analyze the poems using phenomenology and then about architecture. And this take a lot of time because I happen, I identify, about 10 different themes. And then I tried one theme and then looked not only at the poems inside this anthology of 300 poems, but also go through the poetic tradition of China. So that got really me into trouble because we're talking about thousands of poems. And then fortunately, during this sabbatical, I found this database, I can search electronically keywords. But again, this will not really help me a lot because I can, one search can have 10 or 10,000 of different results, and I need to go into each poem and then to read it. So therefore, I have to say, I didn't finish it as I wished to finish my manuscript of a book about this. But I made progress. And because I saw that probably I'm not going to finish this one, but I want to finish something, for my sabbatical. And then during this time, a contemporary history book, is published about Chinese contemporary architecture. I contributed a section of it regarding this Rockefeller Foundation supported hospital and medical school in China. So that's started the design, I think, in our building in 1919. So the architect, his name is Harry Hussey. Is a architect trained in the U.S., but originally from Canada. And then, so he published a book about his life in China for 40 years. And then in the book, it's mentioned many details about how he did the hospital. And then so I felt that, it's an important book. And then the story should be known to the Chinese people because this hospital and the medical school is build, the foundation for modern medical service in China. So it's so important. And then so the architects, should, be known. And then, he had a bad relationship with Rockefeller Foundation. So therefore, after it's built, and so they don't mention his name at all. So therefore, I feel that, this is a good guy. And then I should let people know about him. So therefore, I started to translate his book. I called the publisher. They said, yeah, you can still do it, and then but you have to find a publisher in China, to deal with the copyright thing. And then I said, I'll just translate it, and then I'm sure that I can find a publisher. And then with the help of my friend, and then so I got a publisher. So that is the Building Industry Press that also published the contemporary architecture book. And then I sent my transcript or a manuscript in. But again, I got into this political problem because this guy lined up, himself with not the communist, but the other side, the Kuomintang or the nationalist. And then this guy is kind of really interesting because he later, after the architecture work, he got into politics and then in China, and then worked as a kind of a double agent, working for the American government and then the Chinese government. And then, during the war against Japan, and then, it amazes me, the later part of the war, got into a kind of a, really dramatic story about how, the Japanese, chasing his car with a machine gun. And then, the publisher, told me that, so now, the Communist Party Congress, will be on, and then, so we cannot take the risk, to publish this. And then, so another friend, trying to help me say, he told me that, okay, so you hold on to it, and then, so I will wait for a good chance, to find you another publisher. So I'm waiting for the publisher, get this published. And then to really to have a feeling about the stories in the book, I actually went to Port Dover, a little town on the shore of Lake Erie in Canada, and then to see if I can find any traces of this architect. But because he left the town at the age of 16, so therefore nobody ever remembered him. And then his family, I think, all moved out. And then the only thing I found is a old picture book, and that has his sister in it. And then his sister opened an Oriental gift shop. And then I found in a little store, I found an old Chinese sculpture, wooden sculpture. And then I believe, so that is from his sister's gift shop. But so that is the story. And also, I started, because when I was in Spain to present my lighting class, and then one of the people there challenged me about computer simulation. And then she pointed out that, have you ever studied whether the tool you use is accurate? And then so that means I need a validation. But I searched around, I didn't find any kind of a study about the 3D Studio Max, whether the lighting simulation is accurate. And then inside the program, we also have 2 different render engines. And then so I don't know which one is better. So therefore, I sat in the lighting lab and then did the computer modeling, and then compared it with the field measurement, and then try to figure out which one is the more accurate. And then so I had a conclusion, and then I'm ready to probably write a paper or something and then find a place to publish. But now it helped me to understand a lot of things, and then so this is my other adventure during the sabbatical. All right, so now I pick another painting of the same painter, but this time I think it's time to go back. And then so he's walking back. And then that's it. Thank you.
So I believe we have a few minutes, literally just a few minutes for questions. And if you have some questions, please be patient. I'm going to run up to you with the microphone so we're connected with the outside world.
So the villagers that went to the city and then came back and built, did they stay in the village when they came back, or did they go back and forth between the city and the
usually
village?
go back and forth. Yeah, but we met somebody who kind of done enough, or they made a lot of And then they decided to come back and then to run a family-based hotel, and then for people to visit, and then just keep it going. And then, but most of the people will go back and forth, and then so you can see almost all the people in the village are either old folks or women with little children. And then usually when the kids, grow up in the school age, and then they will go to the city to look for better education opportunities.
Any other questions? Oh, man.
How much had you thought about or read the works of Christopher Alexander before you went there? Was this something that you had sort of done and forgotten about, or was it on your mind as you went to this place?
Probably, Steve when he introduced me, I got my degree from UC Berkeley, and then I actually, the first semester when I got there, I tried to get to his studio. But unfortunately, he's on sabbatical. But his girlfriend, Ingrid King, was teaching it, and then so he will come to critique. So I'm very interested. Even before I went to California, I already, I think Tsinghua actually parroted the book A Pattern Language. They printed, and then give every student a copy. So therefore, I read that pattern language before that, but I read the Timeless Way as a later time.
My question is really long, so I'm gonna ask it afterwards.
Okay.
All right.
And where did you stay in the village? Sorry. Where did you stay? In one of the houses when you were?
No, we want to live in the village, but the government people insist that we don't. And then because there are foreigners, and then they don't want to something safety something happened, and then so they keep us in the hotel in the city.
And they probably also don't want you to influence the villagers.
Probably not that sensitive,
Okay.
not that sensitive.
Okay.
And we try, the second year we say, so we go there and then we stay in the village. And then they say, yeah, we'll try, but then when we got there, already booked the hotels.
Oh, so Jin, can you give us at least a little bit of a peek into some of the things that you were getting toward in that study between the poetry and architecture?
Okay, probably that's, you want now or you want later?
Maybe.
So I can give a paper. Yeah, I wrote a paper, and then so I can give you a copy so you can look at it.
Yeah, because I'd be interested in
Yeah, or I can talk to you at a later time,
And when I welcome the audience, internal and external, I neglected to welcome our alumni. And Eric, it's great to see you. You've been a consistent member of our audience, so it's great. And I also neglected to introduce myself, though it's about Jin Feng. I'm Stephen Rost. I'm the Department Chair of Art and Design in the College of Architecture and Design. So I do believe there's room for one more question. There's a class here in 5 minutes. Are you sure?
Yeah, we can do both. Just kind of just an interesting comment. It's funny that you talk about postmodernism when we discussed postmodernism earlier in your class today.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of a great way to see it firsthand in another country. And I appreciated your lecture. It was very spirited.
Thank you.
I'll just piggyback. I don't think this is actually working. Oh, okay. Just to piggyback off of that, between the vernacular modernism that was actually created like by the hands of the people that would come back from the city and actually like construct their own homes, and the vernacular postmodernism, which had so much influence from the European standpoint. When you guys came in to like help like redesign or like the whole facelifting thing of the villages, and if you had to consider their opinions, I suppose, or like whatever stylistic opinions they had, how would you sort of negotiate the architectural aesthetic and that vernacular postmodernism?
Okay. The design, actually, this year we divided into, I think, 5 teams or 6 teams. I was in the overall general plan, and then there are 2 architecture groups that generate, the actual design drawing. But I don't believe they actually consulted the villagers. The first one, they wanted to stay out of it. And then, so second, they didn't go there. And then we have a landscape group. They only visited the village for 1 day,